Did you know for Meet Me in St. Louis, Judy Garland scoffed at the idea of portraying yet another teenager? She was 21 when filming began and wanted nothing to do with the film. Her mother even went to MGM chief Louis B. Mayer on her behalf. However, Vincente Minnelli convinced her to play the part of Esther Smith, and Garland later fell in love with the story. In her later years, she considered it one of her favorite roles. 2. In Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, Judy Garland refused to sing the grim original lyric, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas. It may be your last," to little Margaret O'Brien. The star's creative opposition inspired songwriters Hugh Martin and Ralph Blaine to form the more optimistic lyric, "Let your heart be light." 3. Director Vincente Minnelli and Judy Garland met on this movie and married soon afterwards. Garland claimed she married him because she felt extremely beautiful during the film. 4. Judy Garland recorded the trolley song in a single take. 5. This film was a box office smash, grossing more money than any prior MGM release in 20 years, with the exception of David O. Selznick's Gone with the Wind. Did you know for It's a Wonderful Life, during the bank run scene, director Frank Capra rehearsed the scene between James Stewart and Ellen Corby several times. When Corby's character was asked how much money she needed, she replied $17, which was in the script. Just prior to the first actual take, Capra took Corby aside and told her to give Stewart an odd number, thinking it would be funnier. When she said $17.50 to Stewart, he was taken off guard and impulsively kissed her, which was not in the script. Stewart's spontaneous reply was so genuine that Capra left the scene in the final film. 2. The gym floor that opens in the middle to reveal the swimming pool underneath was filmed at Beverly Hills High School in Beverly Hills, California. It was real and is still in regular use. The same gymnasium moving floor was used in a similar school dance scene in Whatever It Takes, 54 years later. The young man who opened the floor to the pool was Carl Alfalfa Switzer in an uncredited role. He was one of the stars in the Our Gang Little Rascals series. 3. Director Frank Capra often said that this was his favorite of all his films. Did you know for While You Were Sleeping, the original screenplay was about a woman in a coma and a man pretending to be her fiancé? Many studio executives thought this to be too predatory, but one suggested reversing the roles. Once the script was rewritten, the movie was picked up by Hollywood Pictures. 2. The film wasn't originally supposed to be a Christmas movie. The studio wanted it set during the holidays, as it would be easier to sell. 3. The role of Lucy was written for Demi Moore. Sandra Bullock took the role, saying she could relate to it, having just broken up from a 4-year relationship. Patrick Swayze was considered to play Jack when Demi Moore was in negotiations. The two previously played love interests 5 years earlier in Ghost. 4. A then-unknown Matthew McConaughey tested for the role of Jack, but was dropped because of his Texas accent. The director rejected offers to cast Russell Crowe in the same role. 5. In a transition scene, a paper boy is shown slipping off his bike. This was actually an accident, but they decided to keep it in the movie. In fact, the paper boy actor broke his wrist. Did you know for Miracle on 34th Street, the cast and crew were unanimous in their opinion of Edmund Gwenn? They loved him. Alvin Greenman, who played Alfred, called him a dear, dear man, and Robert Hyatt, who played Tommy Mara Jr., said in a 2001 interview, "He was a really nice guy, always happy, always smiling. He had this little twinkle in his eye." Maureen O'Hara also said, "By the time we were halfway through the shoot, we all believed Edmund really was Santa Claus. I've never seen an actor more naturally suited for a role." 2. The film was shot during a bitterly cold New York winter. On several occasions, the cameras literally froze. Maureen O'Hara remembered that a woman named Vaughn Mele lived across the street from where they were shooting exteriors and allowed the crew to warm up in her house. In gratitude, O'Hara took her and her husband to the famed 21 restaurant, and she was so excited all she could drink was a glass of milk. 3. In the untranslated dialogue with the Dutch girl, Chris asks her what she wants for Christmas. She says she wants nothing, telling him she got her gift by being adopted by her new mother. Did you know for A Charlie Brown Christmas? When viewing the rough cut of the show, both Bill Melendez and Lee Mendelson were convinced that they had a flop on their hands. After it premiered, they were happily surprised and shocked at the high ratings and excellent reviews that the show received. Today, the show remains the second longest-running Christmas special on U.S. network television. The 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer premiered 1 year earlier and is still broadcast every year on U.S. network television. 2. Kathy Steinberg, who did the voice of Sally Brown, had not yet learned to read at the time of production, so she had to be fed her lines, often a word or syllable at a time, which explains the rather choppy delivery of the line, "All I want is what I have coming to me. All I want is my fair share." 3. This film broke many of the rules prevalent for animated holiday specials during the 1960s. It didn't make use of a laugh track. Real children were used for the character voices instead of adult actors imitating children's voices, and biblical references were used to illustrate the true meaning of Christmas. Did you know for The Apartment, to create the effect of a vast sea of faces laboring grimly and impersonally at their desks in the huge insurance company office, designers Alexandra Trauner and Edward G. Boyle devised an interesting technique. Full-sized actors sat at the desks in the front, and children dressed in suits were used at tiny desks toward the rear, followed by even smaller desks with cut-out figures operated by wires. It gave the effect of a much larger space than could have been achieved in the limited studio space. 2. Billy Wilder originally thought of the idea for the film after seeing Brief Encounter and wondering about the plight of a character unseen in that film, the person who lends his apartment for an extramarital tryst. Shirley MacLaine was only given 40 pages of the script because Wilder didn't want her to know how the story would turn out. She thought it was because the script wasn't finished. 3. For this film, Billy Wilder became the first person to win the Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. Did you know for 4 Christmases, during the filming of the dinner sequence, Reese Witherspoon was hit in the face with a ceramic plate and required 5 stitches, which delayed the shoot for 3 days. 2. According to director Seth Gordon, the film's subject is the difficulty all people have of reconciling who they are and the person they're supposed to be, which is why it's so hard to spend Christmas with one's family, and why it can engender uneasiness. Naturally, he also felt Christmas was an amazing playground for comedy. 3. According to reports, Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn hated each other during filming, though nobody knows why. During production, a number of stories leaked to the press about the tension on set. The Daily News quoted spies who gossiped about how the stars' personalities clashed. Vince rolls onto set in the morning looking like he just came in from a night out, while Reese will arrive early, looking camera-ready, said their San Francisco source. Then Reese tries to force Vince into blocking out each scene and running through their lines as Vince tries to convince her that he's an ad-libber and wants to play around and see where the scene goes. Did you know for Arthur Christmas, despite mostly positive reviews, the film was lost in a crowded holiday season already full of family films back in 2011, making nary a blip at the U.S. box office and only modest business internationally. Upon the DVD release and cable broadcast beginning the next year, though, the film's reputation began to improve, to the point that it began gaining a following as a modern-day holiday classic. Being available on Netflix also increased its popularity, and was in fact where a lot of people first noticed the movie. 2. The film was released 2 years after Disney released Prep and Landing, a CGI short also centered around elves acting as a super spy prep team for Santa. The only difference being that the Disney production focuses more on the elves, while the Aardman film is about the Santa family dynamic. In fact, the sequel special to Prep and Landing, titled Naughty vs. Nice, was released only 2 weeks after this movie came out, making the comparison fresh on people's minds. It is likely both productions coincidentally started at around the same time. Both works can also draw parallels with the Santa Claus.